But like I would always say, certainly the aspect that I would focus on is quality, and not doing it costs money. So you look at research from the Get It Right initiative. So this is a group set up off the Institute of Civil Engineers, and they did research back in 2016, and they estimated that 21% of construction turnover was wasted in error. So at that time, it was £100 billion in the UK, so they're saying 21% due to error. Now, the profit margin of a good Tier 1 main contractor is 5%, and yet there's 21% being lost in error.
Hello everybody, Gavin Coyle, I'm the Gaffer. I'm back with a great guest today, and we're talking about how quality is such an integral part of a successful organisation, why you need to focus on quality, whether it be within the 9001 standard, your own standard, an international standard, but to have some focus on what it is your quality framework as a business and how it represents you. And is it accurate in terms of how you operate your business? What way are you looking at that? Do you have an external advisor coming in to do that work for you? Or are you just, plodding along yourself and putting together your own procedures and your own systems that you would have used in a previous life and then just kind of mix matching them together for your business? Why would that be a disadvantage? What are the advantages to having a 9001 standard? My next guest is fantastic in terms of she has a built background in terms of her engineering degree. So she's well placed in order to talk about quality, but she's also an expert in quality. She's founder of Construct Tuition, director, trainer, civil engineer, chartered quality professional. She's everything we need today for the next 45 minutes to talk about quality. Lorna Hagan, welcome to I'm The Gaffer. Great to have you.
It's lovely to join you here today, Gavin. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. Well, let's get straight into it and give me the whole getting started in construction, how that happened for you and how we got to be on where we are today.
Yeah, I suppose, very early on, I decided probably as a teenager, I didn't want to work inside. I wanted to work outside. And to be honest, I wasn't smart enough to be a vet. So civil engineering was the way forward. So studied that at university, and ever since sort of graduating, I'm a year out, I have worked for the main contractor. So I put in around 20 years working for main contractors in Ireland, actually a bit in Australia, and then throughout the UK, and on some really good, interesting, big infrastructure projects like Crossrail. I did a bit of nuclear decommissioning and nuclear new build, right through to building a 3-bed semi-detached house on a housing development. So I suppose I've done the full spectrum of big infrastructure right down to small builds.
Deadly.
My last role before starting Construct Tuition in 2021 was head of quality for a Tier 1 contractor managing about £250 million a year turnover of civil engineering projects. So we're talking maybe 20 live projects every year. And I very much could see where the money was being spent on quality and where we were sort of losing money on quality. And from that, developed a course in concrete to improve concrete skills for the graduates within that business. And then, like everyone else, I was very busy in my role as head of quality, managing or overseeing those jobs. And I didn't have time to do it. I tried to outsource it, couldn't outsource it. So thought, there's a business. Construct Tuition was realised off the back of that. So ever since then, I have been doing training and consultancy to improve quality in construction.
I love it, because there is I love the fact that you're not just consulting, because there's a lot of people that go out there and tell you how it should be done, but they don't actually train you or give you a sort of the blueprint of how to affect or how to execute the plan or on the report that you get. You usually get a lot of people in your sector, if you don't mind me saying so, going in, doing the report and leaving it up to whoever else to deal with. So am I right in saying that you're kind of doing this whole ecosystem of, we'll plan with you, we'll train with you, we'll learn with you, and we'll, be on the path and on the journey with you?
Absolutely. And at the forefront of everything that I always do, I always think, I was that customer, I was the recipient on the other end of things, and what would I wanted to hear, what is, I suppose, what could I implement? Because it's great saying you should do all of these different things, but I am very acutely aware of the time and resource pressure that is, that construction sites are under. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe what we're going to develop here will not be a 100% perfect system, but what we're going to do is we're going to improve processes, improve competency in order to maybe improve the system by 70, 80, 90%. And see, to be honest, if it improves that much, that's fantastic. And I think a lot of companies are put off improvements by it's this all or nothing approach. But I think incremental, continuous improvements can make a big, big difference in how companies operate and ultimately in their profit margins and staff retention as well.
Yeah. Talk to me about how important it is to have the ISO 9001 standard. If I'm, driving to work and I've got 20 guys working for me, small plumbing contractor, whatever else, do I really need to go down the road of 9001, or can I just, go with my usual stuff like the handbook, the RAMS documents, the policies, safety statements, whatever it is, and just leave me alone? Like, as far as I'm concerned, I don't need any more bureaucracy built into the program. And I'm being
Yeah,
devil's advocate now, obviously.
yeah, absolutely. So I could be devil's advocate here too. What I would say to, if you are that, let's say a plumbing contractor with, 5 or 6 vans on the road, your business should be operating to the spirit of 9001. So you should be thinking every day when you're driving home with the van at the end of the day, what went well today? What could I improve tomorrow? How could I change things? Do we need better tools? Was all the materials there in place that those guys needed today? Were we efficient in our operations? Were we being brought back to fix snags today? How can we make sure that the next site is built right first time, snag free, so that I can get them guys or girls on to the next job and the next job and sort of being more efficient in earning money in this business? That's all 9001. So
Yeah.
it's the spirit of 9001. Now, to win public sector contracts, you need 9001. So you should be doing it anyway because that's how you run a good business. But I think if you're doing it, getting that 9001 certificate should be a relatively easy step. All you need to do is sort of formalize those processes as well. And what we see with the likes of whether you're in Ireland and it's sort of BCAR requirements, it could be Northern Ireland. And I was listening last night and they're bringing in like a improvements to building safety in Northern Ireland. So there's draft legislation, or you're working in England. This is going to be more and more a focus for your clients. So whether that's tier one contractor or directly to those architects out there or directly to the clients, being able to prove that you run an efficient operation with staff that are competent to do and carry out that work, and that you're going to do it right first time. And if there is any issues, you're thinking about those and you're going to be able to rectify them straight away. So that's the spirit of 9001, and that's what we should be operating, or all businesses should be looking to operate at anyway.
Yeah, because I'll resonate on that because our own company is a recruitment manpower supplier. We also do a bit of consulting, and it's funny the people that say to us like, "But you're a recruitment company. Why have you got all 9001, 14,001, or 45,001?" Like the relief of when you see a tender coming in, and the very generic question of, do you have a independently accredited system to manage quality within your business? Yes. And you just tick yes. That's it. That's it. 9001, blah, blah, blah. And then if you tick no, it just goes boom. There's just this volume of like 50 questions. Like for that reason alone, to say that you could just, have that badge of honor is a blessing, especially if you're looking even for small contracts in the government sector, they're looking for it. And you could have a brilliant system, what I learned, but it might not be accredited. And then you have to justify your system, and you have to back up your system, and you have to go into great detail. So with all the great work that you've done building your system, because you haven't got it formalized and independently accredited, it still goes against you.
Absolutely. And I help a number of clients even sort of fill in bids for certainly infrastructure works, the likes of Ishka Aran and Northern
Yeah.
Ireland Water. And those are the questions that they're asking over and over again. And,
Yeah.
how do you ensure that you're going to be build this right first time? How do you have competent supply chain? As well
Yeah.
as 9001, they're still asking those questions as well. So
Yeah.
it's definitely
I think,
worth.
sorry to cut across you, Lorna, but I think as well, correct me if I'm wrong now, but I think even if you have your own system and you think your system is the best, I think they would actually mark you down because it's not independently accredited in terms of a scoring matrix. Have you any experience in that as well? Or would you know that in terms of
Yeah.
marking, what's the difference? Is there much of a swing between having it and not having it in terms of the scoring?
I think some of them are a bit more cognizant of the size of the organization. And to be honest, I think that's right, because I don't think that there's, the financial outlay for maybe the one man or woman in the van type of scenario to have ISO 9001. It's maybe not there. And for micro SMEs, what I would really suggest is, you look at 9001 or you get advice on it and operate a system that aligns with that certification, so that whenever your business grows, it's not something entirely new that you need to implement that's entirely different. So I would say from those very early startup, and even myself, I have SharePoint, I have a folder structure, we have continuous improvement, we ask for feedback forms whenever people attend the courses. All of that is set up so that there is that ongoing standardized way of operating, which is very much what 9001 sort of, has an approach for, and document control and making sure it's only the latest, most up-to-date versions are
Yeah.
available. So I think a micro SME should be setting themselves up aligned with 9001, so that when they're ready and when they're mature enough and they're tendering on those types of contracts, they already have a system that is being built from the sort of grassroots that makes sense.
Hi guys, as you're enjoying this podcast, I just wanted to take a few seconds to let you know about my company, Coyle Group. We're not just another safety recruitment agency. We're your partners in building a safer future. With over 25 years of experience and more than 1 million hours of safety work completed, our mission is clear. Provide top-tier health and safety contractors tailored to the unique needs of your project. We also carry out on-site construction audits. From wind energy to power stations, utilities and engineering projects, our global reach and specialised expertise ensures your operations are not just compliant, but exemplary. For more information on how ensuring safety and sustainability of your products using our team of HSE contractors, visit coyle-group.com or click on the show notes or video description now. I've also put a booking link into the description for you to click and have a one-to-one conversation with me. Now, back to the podcast. Enjoy and see you soon.
So let's talk about the economics then. What are we looking at? Let's just give it ballpark figures. I'm not going to hold you to it because I'd have a fair gauge on it myself. But talk to me around. I'm Gavin Coyle, roofing. I want to implement 9001. From the day that I contact you or any other quality professional, what's the sort of journey for me and what's the cost implications for the business?
I think it entirely depends. So a lot of the time when businesses go to make that leap forward, what makes more sense for them actually is to do it as an integrated audit process. So they're getting 9001, 14,000 and
45,000.
45,001 altogether.
Hmm.
And depending on how much work, usually there's sort of a gap analysis is undertaken first of all, and then any gaps that are therefore filled in with the likes of support from a consultant for process mapping and information through that. You could be anything. If you had really good processes, it's less time, and that's where it's based against. But for that full suite, it could be anything up to sort of, hate to say it, but like I've seen quotes out there for I don't operate the full all three, so I don't give 9,000, 45 and 18,000, but for all three, sort of 20,000 euros with the auditing in place and all of the process maps in place and the sort of consulting in place wouldn't be a extreme quote to receive. But what I would say is if you are in that space, have a look at your local enterprise office, or if it's Northern Ireland, maybe the likes of Invest NI, because often there are grants available for sort of business improvement, which would part fund or support those business improvement initiatives as well. So definitely worth having a look at those to see can the price of that be offset with a grant as well.
There's another aspect of that as well, is your time, your own personal time as a owner of the business. Or maybe you might bring in your office manager or your QS or somebody that you might designate as the champion, if you like, so that their time is probably not included in, well, it's not included in that 20K rough budget, which, people I would think they would need to take into account of. And then what we found was, my God, it must take, I would suggest probably if you were to put it in a whole condensed version, it's probably about 6 to 8 weeks a year of full-time work spread out over the year, just to keep on top of that system and to include like the likes of surveillance audits, and when the national body, the accredited bodies come in to review you. It's that much. Like I often say to people come to me and go like, "Oh, I'm thinking about getting the ISO standards. What do you reckon?" Well, number one, if you're not motivated to do this for the right reasons and you just want it because you think you're going to get tenders out of it, good luck with that, because it's just not going to work. You have to be kind of like all in. Like I've had it. I'm done. I'm ready. I'm all yours. I'm kind of, putting the hands up and saying, look, I can't keep doing this the way I'm doing it. And you have to be sort of like full on. And once you start and get into it, there's no going back really, is there? It's kind of, you could derail yourself as well if you're not fully committed to the process.
I suppose as business owners, you need to sort of have a longer term view on this. So if you ever wanted that business to operate without you, or for you to take a holiday, or for you, to take or you to grow, but get more business in maybe another region.
Yeah, scale it.
Yeah, the actual scalability, it's a very good basis for scalability, because you will have written processes, you will have all of that sort of framework for how your business operates in a safe, environmentally friendly, continuous improvement environment. So without those, you're the risk in the business. So if anything, it sort of reduces that like continuity risk in the business. So you should be able to step out of it. It should operate in itself, because you have those written or documented procedures within your business. And it's interesting, like the new updates is sort of documented information, and see some really interesting innovations where clients are doing video content rather than, like a written procedure used to sort of sit in the filing cabinet. Nobody wanted to read that because it was boring. Whereas now it is, here's a video of how to do a 2-peg test on a piece of survey equipment. Somebody's going to watch that, but nobody was reading that, 10-page document on that. But very much the standard has been updated to say it's documented information. The video's fine. It's actually better than an operating procedure, because it's more aligned to the competency of the people that are carrying out that work. They would prefer to watch a video. It's easier for them to understand. So even the improvements there have moved on. But like I would always say, certainly the aspect that I would focus on is quality, and not doing it costs money. So you look at research from the Get It Right initiative. So this is a group set up of the Institute of Civil Engineers, and they did research back in 2016, and they estimated that 21% of construction turnover was wasted in error. So at that time, it was £100 billion in the UK. So they're saying 21% due to error. Now, the profit margin of a good tier 1 main contractor is 5%, and yet there's 21% being lost in error. Most of that loss is experienced in the second tier down, so in the supply chain, which is your SMEs, your trade subcontractors. So very much so that reduction in error is about improving your profit margin, trying to get a couple of those 21% of waste of error back again. But when you think about it, 21% isn't a daft figure. If you think about when people are ordering concrete, you maybe over order by 10 or 15% to allow for, maybe I didn't grade that pad foundation just super accurately. You think about all of those people that said, I'd rather be looking at it than looking for it. Accurate takeoffs, doing it once, doing it right first time, having a look and seeing what's actually in the skip. Why is it in the skip? Do you know, was it a damaged works that had to be built twice? And that's where your 21% is coming in. So having good systems in place whereby you're building it once, you're building it right, you're handing it over, and you know you're cracking on to the next job and having a really lean, efficient process within your business.
Yeah, it's the more you get into it, I think it's nearly like, oh my God, yeah, I didn't realize that. And then you just start digging in deeper and deeper and deeper. And you're pulling out all the sort of the ghosts out of the closet in terms of, you know, stuff that has become normalized within the business and normalized practices within the business. And then it became the culture of the business. And then it became, sure, oh, you're grand. Sure, we just go down to the hardware and get another one. And we have the credit card. No big deal. You know, it's kind of that looseness and that sort of, you know, freestyle environment where, you know, you can see why the tier one companies, a lot of them might have even been tier two companies years ago, but then they turned around and went, you know what, we're actually just going to do the management part because the risk in the subcontractor part in that supply chain is so volatile and it's so dynamic and so variable. We'd rather just let them take the risk and we'll just manage the risk as best we can from a management point of view. Is that your experience as well in the last 10, 15 years?
Absolutely. So, you know, they're packaging the works up. It's very interesting where, as I say, changes in legislation, certainly in around England in the Building Safety Act,
Yeah.
nearly pushes away from that. So it's more so about ensuring competency, and it's quite difficult to sort of go down the supply chain. And if you look at like and that Building Safety Act came directly off, you know, the report post Grenfell, and it's about avoiding this race to the bottom and avoiding, you know, the lowest price, fastest job to complete is the one that we're awarding. So there's the pressure on large contractors and clients to move away from that model where it was, you know, shift the risk down all the time and sort of pass the risk down. They are having to prove all of those at all of those levels. So anybody with that accountable role, that they have picked the right person. They have, you know, looked at competency of their supply chain. They have looked at their sort of capability and resources available to carry out that work. So there's an onus on everyone involved in that type of work to not go for that race to the bottom anymore. So hopefully that should mean there is less push down of risk onto the supply chain and a more equitable spread of the sort of profit margin and risk as well across the whole supply chain and the whole sort of chain of construction.
It is accountability, isn't it? Really, when we peel back all the layers, it's like the one thing that sticks out for me is, you know, if you say you are who you are, can you stand over it? And you could be a manufacturer, you can be a distributor, you can be a designer, you could be a builder, or you could be a consultant. Whatever you say you are, that's what you have to, you know, stick your colours to the mast on. And how do you back that up? And if you're backing it up based on, well, sure, Gavin's grand, sure, he's sound, sure, he'll do the job, sure, we used him before, and he's not that bad on the old pricing either. It doesn't wash anymore, does it?
No, it doesn't. And I think for business leaders at all levels, it's never been more vitally important to set the right culture within your business. So if you think whether you're the managing director of that one man or 200 employee companies, you know, the sayings that we're all very used to within the construction industry, and I am entirely a realist in this approach, you know, it'll do rightly, sure, you'll not see it from my house. Those are gone. Those cannot no longer be accepted. And it is very much for those managing directors to set that standard. That's not what's going to happen on my job. I don't want to hear my staff saying that. I won't be saying it. And it is about it is, and you're laughing, but I'm sure you've heard it too, Gavin.
Yeah. That's a brilliant saying, though. You won't see it from my house.
Absolutely. So it is. And yeah, as I say, 20 years, I would be very surprised if in the industry, if we haven't all heard,
the different ones.
Those are worse.
I'll show you a different one that was doing the rounds back in the day. A QS who remains nameless, shall we say, but whenever there was a problem with a job and they'd go back to the QS and go like, you know, obviously pricing, Jesus Christ, like, how do we get to this? We're losing money, blah, blah, blah. And his consistent answer, Lorna, was it was making money when I left my desk. So
Yeah.
go back to wherever you want. And he was right to a point, but like it just goes to show you the disconnect between, corporate office, HQ. It doesn't have to be, it could be back in the cabin with a QS and procurement and the operations team, and then the guys executing the job on the grassroots, if you like.
Yeah.
There is still that big disconnect. I can still see. I know innovation and technology and BIM and all has been brilliant to advance that, but not everybody's using all this technology, and it's not across the board. It is a problem. It seriously is still a big problem. Like you were talking, what was it, 2016? That report was done. Like that's not that long ago.
No, and if anything, when they sort of break the 21% down, so 5% of that was direct costs. So if we take a really simple example of what could go wrong in a job, let's say you build a wall in the wrong place. So that 5% of direct costs would be the cost to knock down the wall, the skip to put the bricks in, buying new bricks, paying the brickie to rebuild the wall. So very easy to calculate. So you either have a purchase order or you have a subcontract. So quite easy to calculate the sort of numbers that's set against that cost. 6 or 7% now is unrecorded process waste based on that same error. So we have the setting out engineer maybe sort of scratching his head for half a day, having to ring up the architect, looking at 4 or 5 different drawings, having to get an updated drawing because there was maybe something wrong with the drawings or that they weren't accurately coordinated. They then maybe had to phone the procurement team, and that lady in procurement had to spend half the day sourcing bricks that no longer are available. They maybe had to buy a pallet of bricks when they only needed 100 bricks. So you have a waste available there. And it also, in that unrecorded process waste, they talk about this lack of productivity somewhere else. So maybe the crane was attending to the bricklayers rather than erecting structural steel. So in that, it becomes very evident. Now that 7% was back in 2016 figures. Now the cost of labour has massively increased. So I would say that 7% is maybe 9% now whenever you look at it, and it is. They also had in, as I say, this unrecorded process waste. So I like to call it, the Saturday morning jobs, Gavin, the one where you made a mistake and you're way back in on a Saturday morning to fix it.
Early.
And it never, early. Before anybody has seen it, before you get caught out with it, and it never goes on a sheet anywhere. There's never a non-conformance recorded against it, but yet it's costing the job money. And we used to have a great example of it. We had a subcontract with this guy called Magic Man, and Magic Man was like a car panel guy, and basically every time you hit a piece of cladding and dented it, you had to get Magic Man out to fix this piece of cladding, and he did a fantastic job. Like, it looked like a brand new piece of cladding. You never knew you'd hit it. Nowhere was there a non-conformance report for this cladding being dented, yet the subcontract for Magic Man was out there every year, and he did well out of it, and he did a great job too. Same with Mastic Man, as well as Magic Man.
Mr. Seeker Flex himself,
Mastic Man and Magic Man or woman could be. Those are the cost of error in construction and the cost of poor quality as well. And then obviously there's sort of latent defects. I think it was 3% as well, but that's stuff that makes it to insurance claims. So there's so much out there that companies should be keep an eye on their bottom line. They should be looking at what is going wrong and how can they improve it, and having a look, and having those lessons learned at the end of jobs and seeing what has went on. And certainly, as I say, one of the courses that I now do is concrete. So it's a 1-day course, and it's for the likes of sort of site supervisors, graduate engineers, those that spend 80-90% of their day actually out on site. And what we had found is that either the university system or that sort of traditional where you've came up through maybe a trade background into a foreman hadn't give them the right technical ability to manage concrete. And when concrete goes wrong, it gets expensive very quickly. So within the business that I used to work at, our concrete NCRs were averaging $5,000 each. So they were very easily, some way over that, some sort of slightly under that, but easily that's what it was costing between labour and fixing it. And what we found was, through this training, through giving the people that are supervising the sites the skills in reading reinforcement drawings, knowing what to do when the concrete truck turns up and there's issues with that concrete. So how to test it, how to reject the load, how to review a mix design. What we were able to do is reduce the number of those, or the frequency of those errors occurring, by 75%, just by giving the right training to the right people, focused on solely their job. So we didn't teach them how to be a test technician. We didn't, we looked at what in their role do they need to be able to know, and we taught them what they needed to know. And that's very much the sort of ethos of what I do. Is I think, who is in that position, what do they need to know, how can we sort of get that low hanging fruit or those expensive high frequency errors and reduce them going forward.
Hello gaffers, hope you're enjoying the podcast. We love every one of the guests that we have, but in order to bring on more great guests, we'd love to build a channel with you. So hit the subscribe, hit the like button, and let's create a really great community where we bring in better and better guests for you to deliver great content and great pieces of information that you can take back into your business. Now, back to the podcast. Thank you.
I'm glad you got ahead of me on that in terms of that conversation, because as you were talking, I was thinking of the likes of an appointed person, for example, and they would be appointed, obviously, if there was a crane lift or heavy lifting going on a project, you'd have the crane driver, who's obviously very qualified in their own right, but then you'd have the appointed person who pretty much knows as much as the crane driver, except they can't operate a crane. So they'd be able to make out the calculations and all the rest of it. And this was washing in my head as you were talking, and I was listening to you, but I was kind of saying to myself, we don't really see quality as a enforcement oversight officer, whatever. You never see somebody with quality engineer or QA, QC going across the site these days. Or it's very rare. Like, it's always usually in the back office in corporate HQ, because, that's where the independent body comes and, interrogates us on the system, and then we'll do a day's visit and we'll let everybody know on the site that we're heading for that site that day. So the place miraculously looks lovely and everybody is doing nothing, yet the job is getting done. So they've been told, down tools, back off, because we don't want to be seen to be doing something we shouldn't be doing. The point I'm trying to get to is, it's not really I don't think the workforce has moved on to have somebody, because it's not fair, I don't believe, on the site manager, supervisor, charge or foreman to constantly try to keep up with, maintaining or looking after quality issues.
No, and it's incredibly difficult to have that high level of competency in such a large range of skills. Like, on the start of this, I talked about the few different jobs that I've worked on. I don't think I've ever built the same thing twice. So, and to have that level and sort of range of competency across all areas is incredibly difficult. I also think the fact that quality has a bad external image. So people are like, oh, that's the form filling, box ticking, doesn't really add any value to it. But I think it should be more so framed as this technical excellence and getting it right first time and improving profitability and reducing that risk, whether it be the risk of defects for the business down the line, or the risk of losing your profit margin, or the risk of a loss of productivity. That's what quality should really be seen as. And I think if it's only being given that sort of superficial level of, that's the box ticking, somebody that's filling in a bunch of paper that goes in a filing cabinet never to be seen again, or adding any value, then that's not what quality is, or you're not doing it right if that's what it is within your business. It should be that technical excellence. It should be a lean approach. It should be, really improving productivity.
Yeah, because I think you can go down a rabbit hole of getting wound up too much on the form filling side of things, and you're not connecting that as, okay, we found this crack in the door, or a hole in the wall, whatever it is, shouldn't be there. How did it get there? What was the root cause? How do we explain it? Okay, what's the cost implications for us as a business and for the client? What I found is it doesn't go into that conversation. It stops as, just we have to fill that hole, or we have to fix that crack and get that done before the next, leadership walk around the site, so that, we just get it done. rather than saying, okay, hold on a minute, this is something that's a pattern, and how much
Yeah.
is the cost?
No, absolutely. And I think there's a level of maturity in that yet again, as a business owner or as a leader of a business, you need to say it's okay to report these things and it's okay to make these mistakes. And you should be using whatever, systems that you have in place to report them. I would do a lot of sort of support contractors with the likes of implementing Procore or Autodesk,
Yeah,
SEC, or one of the other very many
yeah,
software brands out there that does the same sort of thing. And the data analytics that's coming out of the back of them are fantastic because they are pinpointing where the issues are within
yeah,
your business, and they're really supporting those sort of quality or health and safety or environmental systems. So I think there should be a push and a positivity about reporting those things.
yeah,
Please report them, because without that data, it's very difficult to act on change and change, have that change at that corporate level rather than just, at a site level and every single site's working in silo. And that's certainly in the business that I had worked in previously where the difference really came in, where we trained across the division rather
yeah,
than just one site where the one issue was happening. It made that difference. So it did. And like
yeah.
when we calculated out how much that made by putting people on a course, it was about £155,000 saved in error over 6 months.
Yeah.
So like that's no small number
No,
for
no.
putting people on a course. So incredibly beneficial. Plus you have the staff retention as well, and I lived through the last recession. Like I started out on site in 2003, 2004.
Mm,
Things were fantastic when I graduated. You then had it fell off a cliff. And I remember having finished a job here in Ireland and the conversation was, it's Heathrow or your P45. So I says, right, well, I'll go to Heathrow then. And that's how the conversation went in 2010. And,
yeah,
but there was such a huge drop off in mentorship then.
yeah.
So if you imagine the people coming out, like when I started, I had a guy that was 2 years older than me, and I had another guy who was in his 60s. So I was taught the brand newfangled digital way and also the old school way
Mm,
simultaneously when I came out. And that mentoring's just,
not there.
it it's not there.
No.
So you need to put something else in place of it. So
Yeah.
whether it's a course or whatever, there needs to be that intervention in place because it's missing and we need to replace it with something.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. And that's not just quality. I think there's a whole peer-to-peer modeling that needs to be done in the new shape of where we're at because we've lost a lot of grey hair, bald heads, and they haven't been replaced. And that is a challenge. That is a major challenge. I can see that 100%. The other thing is, I don't know, maybe you can speak to this, but I don't see people's job descriptions having a KPI for quality in terms of commissions, bonuses, overall, just getting paid for doing the job. We're not linking the likes of, in your language of your world, opportunities for improvement, i.e., I found the problem. We're not open, we're not transparent enough as companies to sort of put our hands up and say, that was the wrong paint choice or that was the wrong glass choice for that window. We're going to have to change all the windows. Put your hand up. Just say, yeah, this is wrong. It's a mistake. It's an opportunity for improvement for your business, for your client, for the industry potentially. I don't know that we're there.
No, but I think with, as I say, certainly in the UK and, it's coming in Northern Ireland as well, there is this sort of change in legislation whereby companies need to have proof of competence. And when you look at that, that's SKEB. So it's skills, knowledge, experience, and behaviours.
Mm,
And that is the behaviours. That is when it's wrong, admitting that it's wrong,
yeah,
fixing the issue, and having the right behaviour. And that, as I said before, needs to be set from the leadership team. That's a cultural,
yeah,
we
shift.
talk about behavioural safety. It's exactly the same in quality, having
Yeah,
that safe space that it's the right thing to do to put your hand up, say it's not right, make sure that we get it fixed, make sure that it meets, specification or building regs or whatever requirement it needs to meet ultimately, and take that lesson away and see how can we improve on that and learn from it and make sure it doesn't happen again.
brilliant. I'm going to throw a few curveballs at you because we're near the end of the show. And I know one not to ask you, so I won't ask you that one. Knowing what you know now, Lorna, what would you do different in life?
I always say fortune favours the brave. I think I would have been a bit braver a bit sooner. Running your own business is incredibly difficult, but I truly
Yeah.
do believe fortune favors the brave. Maybe I should have stepped out sooner, or just, yeah, been a bit braver all along.
Do you know that comes up an awful lot in when I ask that question? That answer that you just given comes up quite a good bit. People kind of, oh, I missed the boat. I probably should have done this 10 years previous. But like, I think it's everybody has their own path and their own journey. I think everything happens for a reason. And I think timing is everything as well. You know, there's a time, I think, when you're just soaking up all this competency and just, you can't stop learning because you just want to learn more and you're curious and whatever else. And then it gets to the stage where I think you just go, okay, kind of curiosity thing and kind of learning thing is kind of getting to, I'm getting to the point where I can't go to somebody else to ask them because people are coming to me. You know, I think there's a discussion around that actually as well as people, like they talk about needing 10,000 hours to become competent. Like
Yeah.
you're well over your 10,000 hours. If you don't mind me, I'm not.
Yeah.
I know from looking at your profile in terms of your career, like what more do you want to learn in the private sector? What more were you going to learn, I suppose? And I think it's probably more rewarding for you now, giving back all the knowledge and all the experience that you had.
Yeah. And I'd like to say I didn't have imposter syndrome, but I can remember back to the 28-year-old version of me going to the top of like the pointy building in Canary Wharf, working
Yeah,
on Crossrail and thinking, how have I got here representing the main contractor? I'm too young,
yeah,
not
yeah,
sure, you know, where am I going with this? And I remember going into the room, and to be honest, I was probably pulling the average age down by a solid 15 to 20 years, and I'm probably being very good towards the overall mix of genders by increasing the percentage of that significantly as well. And I
yeah,
remember coming out of that meeting and just thinking, no, I know exactly what I'm doing here. Don't doubt yourself again. So I think when I
yeah,
doubt myself, I think put yourself back in that room.
yeah,
You know what
yeah,
you're doing.
yeah. I think as well. I think you have to have passion and you have to have a love for what you do. And I think once you come from an authentic place where you're just going in and you are who you are. You're not fluffing it. You're not dancing around different words or different acronyms and kind of like, that you're just calling it as it is. People will respond to that and kind of go, yeah, I'd rather you just give me the bad news.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Tell me this, a favorite place that you'd like to go to. I mean, you might say like, it might even be something local or it could be somewhere that you just go, you know what, give me a Ryanair flight out of here because I'm heading over there for the next week.
Yeah. I would say anywhere with a swimming pool, 4-star all inclusive that had rosé wine and 25 plus degrees, I would be okay with.
Okay, so you've had that conversation with yourself already. Love it. I love it. It's brilliant. A point of interest about you, Lorna, that not many people would resonate with,
Ooh.
or the listeners and viewers might go, wow, she's been talking for the last 40 odd minutes. I did not know or didn't see that coming. Might be a hobby. It could be something of interest about you as a character.
Now I think now I'm like, I don't even know if I'm particularly interesting. I
Yeah, they wouldn't say that at all.
It's maybe not uncharacteristic, but I really have a passion for the construction industry, and I have a passion for representing women in the construction industry as well.
Yeah,
And I think that's so vitally important. From somebody who had few role models to look up to, I think it's great to see female role models within the construction industry. And I
100%.
only hope that I might inspire one or two in the future, or be of support or be of inspiration of one or two in the future. And it's interesting. I have 2 kids, and their idea of builders is no longer just their dad, it's their mum
Yeah.
and their dad. So I think even in my own mini victory, I've won by increasing their sort of view of the construction industry.
I love it. And actually, you've rounded things off really nice. And I 100% agree with you. We need to back the right people for the jobs. There needs to be, there's plenty of fantastic women that are probably doing other things in other sectors, and there's great cross transferable skills of other sectors that can come into construction. If we can attract those people, we might actually solve some of the labour shortage as well while we're at it. I'm looking at your website here. It's www. Very good website, offering obviously 9001 quality consulting, but also the training, which I think is brilliant, that you can actually train the frontline people to identify the areas for concern, correct those areas, go back to the drawing board, build up your management system, your people, your processes, your behaviors, your patterns, and become a better company for the future, for your staff, for yourself, and for your customers. Lorna Hagan, it's been an absolute pleasure. How do people get in touch with you directly, and what way would they
Yep.
do it?
So absolutely. So you can go on the website. As I say, it was www.constructuition.co.uk. There's two T's in the middle. That sometimes confuses people. Or you can email me at lorna.hagan, two A's in Hagan, Hagan, at constructuition.co.uk. Or follow me on LinkedIn. I sometimes have some interesting stuff put up there. Just last week I was doing like a workshop as part of a HSEQ stand down day for Elliott Group in Croke Park. So sometimes there's nice little interesting videos on there as well. So follow me on LinkedIn on the company page or on my own as well.
Well done, Lorna, and thanks very much. We'd love to have you on again in the future. Take care. We wish you all the best and well done.
Thank you very much, Gavin.